And we're on 2020, new season, first race of the season for me. As I'm recording it, this is a race, I raced it yesterday, Randall's Island, one of my favorite races in New York City. A beautiful course, I love that course. You got to be really strong to stay with the front group, which was basically my goal at that race. Now, from watching others people video, especially Claudio, if you guys don't know Claudio, I will link his channel down below. You got to check it out. So looking at watching his last video at Randall's Island, which I didn't race, I knew right away that from the gun at the neutral lap, which we're doing right now, you got to be in the front. No other way. I mean, you could be extremely strong, but if you're in the back of the group right now, and unfortunately I don't have a rear camera here, but behind me there are 40 people, basically 40 races right now behind me. Once the neutral lap ends, this is it. It's like the race starting and people are hammering in the front to get a selection right away. So the first lap is basically an anaerobic sprinting capacity. Let's call it all out from the gun, almost like a Swift race. So everybody going berserk, and it's inevitable. So you have like maybe the 10th wheel, 11th wheel, 20 wheel, whatever. There will be gaps opening right away, and to close them, you gotta be very, very strong. You have to burn a match, and separations will usually start to occur right away. So I knew it. I was in the front. I'm just every time I'm recording these videos, I'm asking myself, so you know, everybody else will see this video and everybody else will want to be in the front, but eventually there's only that many people that can be in the front. So I'm wondering what's going to happen then. Anyways, let's put the stats here. Let me show you the stats of this race first. So 57 minutes about, it was about 35 kilometers. There were 40 racers in that field. My normalized power was 274 and my max power was 837. So it was a hard race for me, considering I didn't really train at all, almost maybe once or twice during the months of October and December. And my goal was very simple: just stay with the front group. If I could stay with the front group, that's all I really want. That's it. That's a win for me. So this is my goal. I didn't care about attacks. I didn't want to see the front of the win. I didn't want to see the win. I just wanted to be in the front group, basically. That was my goal, really. And you can see the motor pace is coming us down, and it is ballooning here. We're gonna have like the entire field almost coming to the front. They're all ready to race. They all know you have to be in the front. They're all ready for a sprint, basically. And the motor pace trying to calm everyone down, but look at this. It is crazy. And as soon as it goes, race is officially starting, and it is full on sprint. I'm hitting 400 or 500 watts, and the one thing that is missing from the information I'm putting here on in front of you is the wind direction. At that point right here, at that stretch, it is a tailwind coming slightly right to left, which makes you go to the left if you want to basically draft just a little better. And you see how gaps are opening. I'm putting 350 right away, and that's after sprinting. Now I know I can close the gap. When there's like a slingshot effect when you're going downhill, I learned during that race and also older races that I can have that gap open and then close it right away without really touching my brakes. If you know how to take that corner correctly, you could basically leave yourself a gap, rest a little bit for like a few seconds, and without touching your brake, you will slingshot into the last rider here on the line. Now, at that section here, this was a very strong headwind coming a little bit slightly left to right, so it pushed everybody to the right. As you can see, I'm also taking a little bit to the right of the rider in front of me. There's a little too much of a gap here that I'm looking at it, and people are going backwards already. It's a hard race, man. There's not a lot of, because the road is so narrow, you can't really draft that well, and if there's a wind that's coming from the left or from the right, what you call crosswind, sorry. Anyway, if there's a crosswind, and you're gonna have a crosswind somewhere on that course, since you're going in circles basically, it forces you to the left or the right, and once you're running out of road, guess what? You have to work just as hard as the guy in the front. So at places, it is really, really tough. This race is really forcing you to work hard, and selection will be made right away, right from the gun. Now, look how hard I have to sprint from every corner in order to maintain position here. And here's the one guy that went off-road. And 700 watts right away from the gun. I mean, most people will give up right now and say, oh, that's too hard for me just to try to stay. But this is the race. The first couple of laps, the way you have to see it is, this is the race. You either lose or win that race at the first 2 laps, basically. Because otherwise, it doesn't matter what's going to happen at the rest of the race. There could be attacks. There could be... It doesn't matter. If you're not in the front, you're not in the race. You are basically racing for minor places, if at all. Anyway, I'm still here at the front, and there is one guy attacking. My goal is very simple. Make sure there's no gaps opening in front of me, and if there are gaps, close it and bunny hop from one wheel to the other, just to stay with the front group. Now, mind you, I am just following wheels to try to stay in the front group, and my normalized power for that race, which was almost an hour, was 274 just by following wheels. So now, if I'm racing smart, really the goal is to try to have actually the lowest number of to work the least, let's put it this way. A smarter race will work less, conserve energy until it really matters. Now, I did many mistakes. I mean, I'm watching it right now, and I knew already in the race where my mistakes were, but and I learned during the race again and again. It reminded me that course, I am leaving gaps opening too much. Look at this. Look how people are getting pushed basically to the right because the wind is coming. It's such a strong wind. Listen, guys, when on the, especially on the in the spring and in the fall, between seasons, when everything is open, the winds are so strong, and this is a factor in this race. There's not many people behind me right now. I'm almost like last wheel here at that group, and this is it. This is a selection. We are at the second lap right now officially, and there are probably 20 people behind us that are not in touch with us anymore. There will be some that coming back, and you will see during the race how people are coming back and falling, but eventually the group will keep on reduced in numbers until we're gonna be, I think we're gonna be like 12 people in the front eventually, and that's how this race is going. And look, 350 watts. I'm always checking that just in case if I'm on the if I am the last wheel at that group, I don't care what, I'm working as hard as I can just to stay with them. And that was my goal, stay with the front group, and that's easier said than done in this course. Oh boy, looking at his numbers that I'm putting, I knew how hurt it was at that point, but I didn't want to give up, and I'm really happy. Sometimes I have to work on myself mentally during the races and after races as well, telling myself you have to, even though it hurts really badly right now, just try to stay in the front. And look, there are gaps opening now. I'm always keeping an eye. I don't want to burn a match by myself. If I have to, and I'll see that look, you see this guy's going backwards. I have to go around him. Now the wind is coming from the right, so I'm eating a lot of wind. Look at my wattage here. Look at that. And again, reminded you, just a few seconds ago I was doing 500-600 watts. And again, it's an anaerobic capacity. You have to work here. It's harder than your VO2 max. Let's put it this way. This is a proper crit. Going as hard as you can, and then you coasting like I'm doing right now. Now, again, one lesson that I learned from this race for the next one is learn how to coast. Leave yourself a little gap at that downhill. I can basically rest there, and without using the brakes, then just slingshot to the guy in front of me. And look, gaps are opening. I'm noticing it right away. Now, it's important. You have to almost read the body language of the guy that you are in front to see if he's able to close the gap. If you think he's capable, just stay on his wheel like I'm doing right now. I know he will close the gap. I'm always looking at few things. The guy in front of me, if he's closing the gap, I don't want to come and burn a match. I'm using his power, basically. I'm using him to get me to the front group, and I'm watching also at the front group. So you always have to see what's going on. If the front group, it looks to me like they don't go as hard, and the guy that in front of me, let's say he has a gap to that front group, is bringing me back, then I'm just staying on his wheel. There's no reason for me to go around him and just burn a match. As long as he's bringing me back to the front, it's all good. Now, obviously, like I said before, I'm always watching ahead. If I see the front group is starting hammering and the gap is keep on growing, it's a split second decision. You can't wait too long, because every second counts. Every second that the front group, if they have a gap, is opening, that means you might have to work, and another guy going off-road, you might have to work for like 5 minutes to just close the gap sometimes. So you don't want it to happen. You have to make decisions right away on the road. I'm using other people's wheel all the time. If I see they're pedaling smooth, they're not rocking on the bike. Here I used a little bit of power just to get back to the front. You can see the wind is coming from the left right now, so I'm always staying to the right. I'm always sheltered from the wind as much as I can. And I'm gonna use other people's wheel, and look, more attacks in the front. It was attack after attack after attack, and yeah, that section, for some reason, I keep looking at that section. I think I took it too easy on that right corner there, thinking that, you can just rest a little bit at that corner, but it was a mistake. And every time I did that, a gap opened, which makes me burn a match. And once again, look, I'm taking it easy here because I see the guys in front of me, and I see the guy I'm sitting on. There's like a little gap in front of him, but I'm still not panicking. I know I will basically ride, or you see I'm not touching the brakes here at all, and I'm on his wheel. Now at that corner here, the wind is coming right to left, and it becoming a headwind right here. And as soon as I saw the gap, I saw he's going backwards. I noticed that this is it. I have to close the gap myself. Like I said before, the guys in the front are single file. They going hard, and the guy that was in front of me was going backwards, and I had to close that gap myself. I don't care. I burned a match, and I did that. And everybody are single file here. It's such a strong headwind in that section here. And once again, that's how the selection keeps on going, because not everybody can do that power profile. It's basically pushing 600-700 watts every few seconds, and every time the gap open, you have to close it and you have to burn another match. And most people, after like few matches, they're done, they're burned, they're going backwards, and the group will keep getting reduced in numbers until you have a front group that is working really hard. The smartest thing really, this wasn't the smartest thing to do. If you want to work more smoothly and less picks, you probably want to be like anywhere between 5th to maybe 8th wheel, maybe 10th, not even. In that race, around 5th wheel. You want to be in the front. The front guys are not spiking power that much. Because of that accordion effect that's happening in the race, gaps are opening. It forces the guys, let's say 10th wheel, 12th wheel, to work even harder than the guys in the front. So that's another thing to remember. But I didn't want to contest that race on the front spots. I didn't want to work that hard to be in the front. And maybe it's a mistake, again, thinking about it now in hindsight, it probably was a mistake. And look at this, a gap opens. I'm counting on the guy in the front. He was going back and forth again and again. So I told myself, listen, I can't keep on jumping off his wheel every time and burn a match, until I realized, okay, he's done. His race is over. And again, once again, now I have to burn a match. Very strong wind here coming right to left. And, yep, and I'm making it to the front group. Once again, I think in that point, and we are what? We are 16 minutes into the race, and I am hurting already. I hit the highest numbers, I think, at the beginning of the race. I think I'm here probably close to like 300 normalized power at that point. But at least I'm doing that corner. Look, it's just, you have to sprint from that corner. This is a mistake again. I'm leaving a gap opening here. Even that small little gap making me work so hard. Now I'm watching the guys in the front. I see how they... I think this guy gonna go off-road right now. One of the guys, I remember. The wind pushed us from left to right. Anyway, what I wanted to say is... the guys in the front, as you saw when we coming off the corner, they basically staying together. That's the good thing when you are at the first... say 8 racers in the front, you taking that corner all together, and your momentum basically just carrying you at that corner. Once you have a gap opening, like I left myself a gap opening, you see like individual riders at the back that have to close a gap to the front group again and again and again, and this is a mistake. I need to be somewhere where the pink, if you see on the right there, the tall guy, tall rider in the pink, I need to be somewhere around there. 5th wheel, 6th wheel, that would be ideal. But hey, what I wanted to say is that at least so far, 17, almost 18 minutes into the race, I am doing what I said to be doing at the beginning. Just stay with the front group. I'm not at my best shape right now. I'm still working on it. It's the first race of the season. I knew I'm not gonna place really well at that race, but I have one goal: stay with the front group. And once again, gaps are opening, and I'm always looking at other riders. I see what they're doing. If I can use someone else's wheel to fill up the gap, I will. If I see I have to work, then I'll close the gap. And that's basically was the entire race, was just exactly as you see it here. Attacks are happening. I am just trying to stay in the front group. For me, that was a hard enough workout. Again, reminding you, 274 watts normalized for category 4 race, just to be in the front group. Keep on pushing again and again, more than 600-700 watts at those corners. It's pretty tough for the first race of the season, at least for me again. Anyways, I'm gonna let you keep on watching the race here, and we'll talk in a little bit. Ooh, that was closed. I almost hit him. I saw him in the last second, thank God. I hope he's okay. That made me burn yet another match, but at least I didn't hit him. And let's take a look at it again. So as we're coming to the corner, the guy in the third wheel in the front there, probably either touched wheels or maybe lost his front wheel, which obviously made him hit the ground right away. One of the riders behind, to avoid him going off-road altogether, if you're looking at the left, you'll see a rider in a black and like yellow covers there, off-road. Anyway, I hope they're okay. I'm just going back to the front group using the wheel in front of me. I saw that it's closing the gap, so there's no reason for me to use a match again. And I'm back in the front group. Now, once again, I'm working pretty hard to stay in that front group. But that's because I'm probably a little bit too further down. I'm closing gaps all the time, which wasn't ideal. But hey, that's a good workout. At least I am still with the front group, which was my goal, so I am happy. Let's keep on watching here. So now we're gonna see a good example why you want to be in the front. Even when you are in the front group, you still want to be in the front. I'm right now, you can say, with the group, right? It looks like it's calmed down, everything goes, everybody are together. How many are we right now? About, I'll say not more than 12 around. But look, I'm like about last wheel here, maybe one of the last wheels here. And people are attacking from the corners right now in the front. I notice it, and gaps are opening, which makes me put 600 watts at the back right away, just to close the gap to the guy in front of me, which have a gap to the guy in front of him. Now at that point, right here, I wanted to sprint. You can see my wattage goes up in order to close the gap, and I notice the guy in my left is really putting a hard effort, and I'm telling myself, okay, I'll let him close the gap. It's still doable. We can still close that gap. It's not a big deal. I'm gonna use his wheel to close it. But what do you know? And I broke my rule here. Within a split of a second, right here, I should have been off his wheel. Look at the front group. This is a big gap. Now I have to burn a match. I have to get off his wheel. And I think this will be the last time we'll see the rider that I just got off his wheel right now and chase the rider in front of me. There will be one more rider that comes on the right here, but there's still a gap here. Now this could be dangerous, because if the guys in the front are hammering and keep on hammering, and again, this is where I learned I don't need to use the brakes and I can close the gaps. But look at that, look, half a lap already from the point that I told you we'll see a good example. From that point, from that corner, if you remember, that people decided to attack in the front, and I am all the way in the back with gaps opening in front of me. Have to use big matches. Thank God I got back to the group. I worked pretty hard to close it. But if I was, say, third wheel, fourth wheel, and I am seeing that move myself in front of me and going with it, it still would have been hard. But not as hard as being actually last wheel here. You have to understand, the guy that is last in this pace line might just be working the hardest, which is counterintuitive, but this is the truth, because you always have to close gaps. And the guys, let's say the guy in the front just made an attack, he's going 500 watts, there's a gap opening, and you are all the way in the back, and there's this accordion effect that getting stretched and gaps are opening. All you have to do, the guy in the front, let's say there's a second guy that counter-attacking him, and all you have to do is just maintain 300 watts, which makes me, the guy in the back, forcing me to close now gaps and work so much harder in order to get myself back to the front group. This is why sometimes being in the back is so much harder than just be in the front. But again, it's easier said than done, and there's not much places that you can. You see how gaps are opening here. I think I am extremely tired. I think at that point, right here, we're about 24 minutes into the race, I almost gave up. but again, I'm working on my mentally strength. Just stay in the race. You have to keep on telling yourself, just keep on working. It doesn't matter how it looks sometimes like the race you are going backwards and you're about to lose it and you're losing the front group. A lot of times when if I'm getting dropped from the front group, I'm basically telling myself, okay, that's it, my race is over. Now I don't care if I am like still, you know, racing for 11th place, let's say, and I can just keep on working by myself for the rest of the race. But for some reason it's demoralizing me when I know the front group dropped me. It's something happening mentally and I'm just stopped working. Not in this race, thank God, but the mental aspect of just being strong, keep on working even when you are really hurt, is probably one of the keys, if not the key, to success in cycling. It's you have to embrace pain. This is what we signed for, right? We're a competitive bunch of riders and we all want to be successful in what we do, and we love it. And unfortunately, this is part of racing. You have to you have to endure pain. Yep, it was a tough race. They just kept on attacking. Now, mind you, if I'm not mistaken, where are we now? We are 25 minutes into the race. I think there's a guy in front. I missed it at the video, but you might saw it somewhere if you're going to go back. There was a foundation guy, really strong, that I recognized from last year. I think he was riding for a different team. Has a diesel engine of probably 350 or more watts, that once he's getting a gap, he's in the front, it will be almost impossible to close the gap. And I know this guy, next time that will be a wheel to follow if I could, and just stay on his wheel. Again, if I could. Now we'll see what's going on with Sunday, because Sunday I usually work, so I might not gonna be able to do the next race. There's another race this coming Sunday, which I would love to do, but we'll see. It depends. And keep on sprinting off from that corners. I kept on pushing myself mentally again and again and again to stay in that race. I didn't do any workouts, sprinting workouts and anaerobic workouts where I had to go that deep, that many times, pushing 500-600 watts again and again and again. So this is new for me this year, and hopefully I'll get better during the year. I'll be able to recover faster after those efforts and just do better in these races in general. But for now, that really hurt. I'm admitting it. I was suffering at that point right here. Once again, I'm looking at it. Why every time at that right corner I left a little gap open? Here, this is where you want to rest at that stretch when the wind is coming. It's like a tailwind, but it's coming from right to left here. So you want to be on the left of the riders in order to get the draft. And every downhill I learned a little bit better just to let go. Don't pedal at all. And just slingshot into the front, in the wheel in front of you. But you see, there's still a little gap open. That's fine. I'm okay with that. No matter what, you're gonna use some wattage off that corner here. And I'm going back right to the right of the field here, because again the wind is coming left to right. Even when I'm with the front group here and in the pace line, look at the surges that I'm doing, sometimes reaching more than 300-400 watts. Again, because the wind changes, keep on changing, and we are single filed, we're going pretty fast. But look at these surges with the group. I'm in the group right now. I'm trying to recover as much as I can, but it's tough. It's tough. This race is tough. See here, when if I'm doing less than 200, let's say, I can recover. That's good for me in the group. But as you can see, they're pushing in the front. They keep on attacking. It wasn't really coordinated. We didn't try to catch per se the guy in front. It was just a strong, hard pace with a lot of surges. That's the thing. So the guy in front have, like I said before, a diesel motor. Basically, he's just dieseling his way, but keeping it consistent. And we are just keep on pushing 500 watts out of every corner, sprinting and keep on surging and surging, attacking one another, which makes the race actually harder on everyone. But because you keep on going faster and then slower, overall your speed is lower than the guy in the front. We never caught him. I don't know how much time he put on us, but that was after a while. I knew we're not gonna bring him because again, nobody worked together. There wasn't really a good pace line. It's also hard to work together in this race. You have to know exactly how to create a good pace line here. But again, people just kept on attacking and wind direction kept on changing. Like right here, I'm doing 400 watts. Why do I have to do that? Every time on that right corner, I left a gap open. That's such a mistake. Anyway, we're never going to catch the guy in the front. The way we racing here, it just slows down like right now. And then, bam, another attack in the front. So, yeah. Tough, but not efficient. Alright, we are already more than half an hour into the race. Just not to make it too long, because it's already way too long and way too heavy for 4K in YouTube. I'm gonna fast forward a little bit to the highlights. I want to show you something in the middle of the race there, and obviously the end of the race. So let's fast forward just a bit. Alright, so we are coming to that famous right corner here. We are still all together, single file here. We have one guy in the front and then a chasing group of what? We are about 10 to 11 in the back. But look at this, gaps are opening and people are, as usual, attacking really hard in the front. And now there's a gap opening. Now there are basically the front guy that we can't see even. He's way in the front. There's a second group now that basically breaking from that chasing group. You can see in the distance there, maybe 4 or 5 guys in the front. Another group of maybe 5 guys. And then me and that other guy, he was strong. Listen, that's why I didn't want to get off his wheel. I knew that he will probably close gaps. But at that point, look at this. This looks already really dangerous. Now, remind you, there are 2 groups in the front that are basically merging together, and look at the gap. I had to burn a match here, and this is it. I'm gonna turn myself inside out to close that gap. I had to go way above threshold and just close it as fast as I can. I knew that when the guys in the front, they're making that right turn into the headwind, they're gonna slow down a bit. And I'm coasting here, but look, I'm not touching my brakes at all, taking that corner very, very fast, which it's, again, like I said before, creating that slingshot effect. And now the gap is just a little bit smaller, but still, that's a tough gap to close. Although they look very close, because of that headwind, it is really extremely hard to close. And yet another match that I had to burn, and we are already 37 minutes into the race of just burning matches one after another. I don't know how many matches I have, man. I have no idea, but I burned them all, and I had to borrow some more from, I don't know, other riders. I don't know, just didn't have matches to burn anymore. Just kept on coming. Tough race. Alright, fast forward again, and we are 1 lap to go here. We are 54 minutes into the race. This is 1 lap to go, and I am still with the front group. You didn't miss a lot. It was just me following wheels and attacks and closing gaps, the usual. I will upload the entire race later probably, so if you guys want to see what you missed, I'll try to upload it just a little later. And again, at that point, mentally I wasn't ready, and actually physically I wasn't ready to sprint. I didn't want to fight for position here. I was tired. I knew I wouldn't do well anyway. I actually achieved my goal, and although I was hurting a lot in the race and thought of just quitting so many times, I still with the front group. This is, for me, I'm consider this the front group. So just to remind you, there's a guy in the front who won the race already, you can say. And we are a chasing group, or the front group if you want. We are, I think there's like 10 or 11 guys here in this group. And as every competitive racer, just like me, you know, even though I knew I'm not gonna do well here, there's still this thought in your mind, maybe I should sprint. Maybe I should start fight for position right now, make way from the left or whatever. Even though it really hurts, it's still crossing your mind. But again, I just want to do, I achieved what I came here for. I stayed with the guys in the front. I told myself, if I find myself somehow in a good position to sprint, I'm probably gonna unleash whatever I have still, which is not a lot. But we're coming into 2 corners to go. If you look at the map on the top right there, there are like 2 right corners and then a straightaway straight to the finish line. And I did a big mistake. First of all, the front group, the group in front of me, is gapping me, and I am just not doing anything about it. And I came to that corner way too hot, which slowed me down, opened a big gap in front of me, and I'm starting the sprint already from here because I have no draft, nobody. And yeah, at the end of the race, that really all I had. Usually I can probably do more than 1200 watts, but at that point, that all I had. I had 600-700 watts maybe. I passed 1, 2. As you can see, the guys in the front, they're really sprinting for places. And I just wanted to make sure I'm going to pass the guy in front of me here. And I got 10th place. 10th out of 40 in a very hard race. For me, at that point of the season, that was very hard. I'm happy with that. And yep, that was the end of the race. Anyway, guys, if you see me on the next race, maybe Sunday, we'll see. I might come again. You want to join us Sunday, Randall's Island? Come say hello. I'd love to meet you. And stay safe. Until next time.